To some cynics in the business world, the term Russian management may seem like an oxymoron. But a new program for the region's largest bank, created by INSEAD and the Moscow-based New Economic School, is changing all that. Here to tell us more is INSEAD professor Sergei Netessine and the dean of the New Economic School, Sergei Guriev. Thank you, gentlemen, for being with us.
Thank you for inviting us.
Okay. The bank in question here is Sberbank, which is the oldest bank. It's, 170 years old, started under the Tsars. It's basically a retail bank for babushkas, for grandmothers. Why did they choose a reasonably sophisticated training program for their employees?
Well, Sberbank wants to be competitive. It's not only now for old people. It actually wants to go to all customers and offer them competitive service. And it's changing, and the change is going on for about 3 years now under the new CEO, Herman Guriev, and the bank is being transformed. But I think the main challenge, as the CEO understands, is to create the new talent within the bank and also raise the quality of the existing talent within the bank, because this bank employs 250,000 people.
250,000, 250,000 people.
250,000 people. It's a big bank, and everything, all success of the bank depends on whether the top and middle management of the bank is up to the task.
But they've also bought Troika Investment Bank. So, I mean, that's something new for them. That's a new market. That's one of the older investment banks.
They bought an investment bank. They're also buying Austrian bank, actually Austrian bank's operations in Central and Eastern Europe. They're expanding in Belarus, Ukraine, and Kazakhstan. They have a lot of challenges, but the main business is still retail and corporate business in Russia, and that's where the main challenges are.
Sergei, what does this challenge bring to INSEAD? It's kind of an ambitious undertaking where you're teaching in Russian, which you're a native Russian speaker. So, what does it entail for INSEAD?
Well, it's a unique program in so many ways. So it is our largest executive education program. It is also one of the few very big programs which is run completely off campus, right? So it's run on bank's premises in Moscow, as well as virtually from our locations, and our faculties run virtual sessions from Singapore, from Paris, from Moscow. You know, it depends where they are at that point of time.
So you have some modules in. How many modules actually take place in Moscow?
So we have 3 face-to-face modules in Moscow. We start with a week-long module in August, and then we have a week-long module in January, and then the concluding module in June, when we finish the program and award the certificates. And in between, we have a continuous stream of virtual sessions, which take place once a week on Thursday. Every week we have a session on a different subject.
And how do you divide the teaching? I mean, the New Economic School does something and INSEAD does something. How do you?
So building a team of Russian speakers is quite a challenge. And we've been lucky to have INSEAD being able to put together a team of faculty who can teach all the subjects except for economics and finance, and New Economic School's Russian-speaking faculty who can teach economics and finance. So we basically have 6 subjects taught by INSEAD faculty and 2 disciplines taught by New Economic School faculty.
So whom do you take with you when you travel back to Moscow to teach? It sounds like half the school here.
Not quite half the school, but INSEAD is fortunate to have a number of Russian-speaking faculties, and we take, there are 6 people who travel to Moscow 3 times a year, so 5 people plus me. And I must say, this is, even though I'm Russian speaking, it's not that I teach in Russian every day or ever. In fact, I do this very, very rarely. So
it's a challenge.
For us, it's a major challenge. We translate everything. We translate videos. We translate cases. We translate books, you know, homeworks. We have a Russian-speaking, Russian language portal where we answer questions in Russian, and our coordinators have to speak Russian to answer requests from participants. So it's a monumental effort, which I think is very, very consistent with our motto of the business school. We are the business school for the world. So, you know, it's only natural that next step in offering education for the world is to offer education in the local language. which I don't think any other business school, top business school does to any scale, to any comparable scale to us.
Is that true? I mean, when you were looking around for somebody for Sberbank, we should point out that you are on the board of directors of Sberbank. Right. So I'm assuming that you were a bit of a scout for the right fit here. So what was this the reason, the fact that we have a lot of Russian-speaking?
Absolutely. Not only INSEAD has a diversity of students, but INSEAD also has faculty coming from all countries around the world.
What are the students like? Are there a lot of women, or any questions that you had? It's because you know the bank. You know the bank probably better than this Sergei does. So what's
we have
every Russian knows the bank.
Yeah. Yeah. We used to not have a choice, right? This was the only bank. So students are great, and this is a general feedback that I received from our faculties, who were, understandably anxious about going to Russia and teaching people who mostly come from regions, by the way. So mostly
not sophisticated.
They're not Moscow-based. They're mostly in Siberia, Ural, and all the other places, and we never go and teach in those places. So there is a natural question: what kind of students we have, what kind of preparation we have, and the bank, together with us, did a great job in selecting the candidates. There are a number of internal tests which are similar to tests that we use to select MBA students. There was evaluation by their superiors, kind of a number of questionnaires they had to fill in, and on the basis of all of those evaluations, we selected this first group of 500 managers who are have relatively high positions in their organizations.
How many are women?
It's a great question. I don't have statistics, but I think it's probably even a bit higher than in our MBA program. I would say maybe 35%.
I mean, when you look out at the class, it's obvious that there are women there.
Yes, there are quite a few women.
This is actually a very important issue. If you look at the board of Sberbank, there would be 1 or 2 women out of 15. If you look at the management board of Sberbank, also 1 or 2 women. If you look at the workforce of Sberbank, 90% are women. This is a general, and this is the main female employer in the country.
Yeah, but they may all be tellers. I mean, how many are going to move up the ladder?
Absolutely. And in our class, we already have more women than at the very top. And I think this program is also opening an opportunity for hard-working women, which are plenty in this bank, to move up the ladder. Because so far, as I said, it's a large employer of women, but at the top, it's very male-dominated.
So, were there any surprises that you found? I mean, when you went to teach the first module back in the summer?
I think participants are extremely motivated.
Did that surprise you?
I
mean, it's a nice chance.
It's always tough to teach executives who work full-time, right? And so you always have a question of, will people read any pre-readings? And that's something that surprised me, I think. On average, when you assign pre-readings to executives, they don't read that much, they don't prepare this much, they plan to come and just do it last moment. I think the preparation level is very good. Participants are really interested, and we put in a lot of time to try to design a program which is tailored for the bank, right? So tailored for banking services, financial services, and that generates a lot of response. So people are eager to take whatever they learn in class and immediately go to their workplace and apply it. So I think there is a lot of potential. There is a lot of openness to new ideas and desire to implement those learnings in the bank. And of course, because the bank is relatively old, has a lot of inherited a lot of processes from old times, there are a lot of inefficiencies, and so there is incredible potential for improving operations of the bank, improving all aspects of bank's business. So I expect we can have a major impact on the culture.
When we first started talking about the Sberbank project, it occurred to me, as we discussed previously, this is kind of significant in that these aren't oligarchs we're speaking of. I mean, these are average people. It's the bank for real. I mean, what does it mean, maybe sociologically, to have a program like this?
Well, Sberbank is the bank for everybody. And Sberbank lends to oligarchs as well. But indeed, in many regions, this would be the only credible bank. And in this sense, the impact the program is having on Sberbank is also going to make an impact on Russia as a whole. Because if this bank is modern, then Russia has a modern financial sector. And then small businesses will have access to lending. Average people will have access to mortgages, not super complicated, some prime mortgage securities, but to real mortgages. All of that is extremely important for Russia, not just sociologically, but also financially and economically. And of course, within the bank, to make a difference, we really need to talk about big numbers. And that's why this program is so challenging. As Sergei mentioned, this is the biggest program for INSEAD. For us, it's also huge. And it takes a lot of effort to run it well. It takes a lot of effort to prepare and actually customize for this particular bank. And even with teaching 500 people, we know that we need to keep doing that for a few years to make sure there is a critical mass of people within the bank that speaks the same language, understands the principles of modern business, but also, I think, which is important to mention, understands that integrity matters. I think this is an issue which sometimes is overlooked in Russian education, business education, higher education, that you have to work. There is no way around, and eventually meritocracy is the only principle that can deliver results. And I think the fact that we are working together with INSEAD on this program adds credibility to the message that in order to get a certificate, you have to work all the way towards the certificate.
I'm just wondering if this is perhaps emblematic of a market for executive education, that finally Russian business has gotten to the point where it recognizes perhaps the need for integrity, or that it needs to address small companies as well. I mean, are we seeing like a bit of a sea change, perhaps?
That's a good question. I think Sberbank, even though it's old and in many ways traditional and conservative, it's also new and ahead of other businesses in terms of the need for executive education. I think the top management of the bank is definitely more modern and more interested in modern business education. And in that sense, we shouldn't really think about Sberbank being representative of all Russian business. On top of that, Sberbank, as I mentioned, has a huge scale, so has resources to invest in the very best. And in that sense, Sberbank is ahead of the other Russian business. But I think it is a sea change that the main Russian institution builds a program like this. And I think other companies will follow.
Do you see other opportunities now that you've gotten so involved in this program and kind of leading it? Do you see other?
Most definitely. I see opportunities. We've been delivering executive education programs at INSEAD to Russian companies for a while now. We've had TNK-BP and Gazprom and
But those have been in English and here for the most part.
Mostly in English, so from time to time we would have certain faculties come and teach in Russian. But it was all small scale, and it was more of a kind of a general management programs. I think with Sberbank it's very different. It's a situation where the whole company is going through a change, and they recognize that educating their top management is a part of the change. It's a part of this monumental transformation of a large company.
Tell me just a little bit about the new economics school. Everybody thinks of Moscow State University, kind of the Harvard of Russia. When was it founded, and what is your brief?
So the new economics school is new. It turns 20 years in 2012 now. And the idea was actually to rebuild economics profession after decades of isolation. And the challenge was huge because we didn't have faculty in Russia, we didn't have faculty in American universities that we could bring back. So the strategy was quite unusual. The new economic school was built based on visiting faculty from Europe and US, and then sent students abroad to PhD programs, and then started to bring PhDs back as faculty. And slowly, or not so slowly, we've built a faculty of something like 25 economists with Western PhDs, and many of these people are publishing very well in international journals, and now the rankings in which New Economic School is top 70 economics department in the world. This is actually a resounding success. I don't have to be modest because I only ran the school for 7 years. This is a success of post-Soviet higher education. This is probably the success story. And I would just give you an example. When US President Obama came to Moscow and he wanted to talk to young people, he actually delivered a commencement address to the new economics, at the new economics school at the commencement.
Let me end by asking you sort of a general question about the mood in Russia, because this obviously will impact everything that we all do. What does this suggest? I mean, could this be good or bad for the business climate?
I think a lot of investors are actually scared by the demonstrations because they've been told that either the current government or chaos. I think the demonstrations have actually shown that the opposition is also well organized and peaceful and doesn't want a chaos and doesn't want a revolution. It wants honest elections and transition to non-corrupt, honest, transparent government system. And it's not necessarily the case that the opposition wins. What may happen, maybe the incumbent government will change and become more open, more pro-business, more transparent and accountable. This is completely possible.
Sounds like the whole world is in alignment and looking for something new. And maybe the new leader will come from Russia. You never know.
You never do.
Okay. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being with us on INSEAD Knowledge.
Thank you, Sherry.